Call it instinct, call it a sixth sense, whatever you want to call it. I went back and I listened to Coach Riley's answer after Tuesday's practice regarding USC's defensive struggles. And I heard something that reminded me of what I wrote in my Sunday takeaway story on wearesc.com. I'm going to let you in on what I heard and what the fans are also starting to hear.
You are Locked On USC, your daily podcast on the USC Trojans, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Fight on, everyone. I'm your host, Mark Holkin, and thanks for making Locked On USC part of the Locked On Network your first listen every day. Whether you're watching the show on YouTube, pick the platform, download this podcast. This show is free. This show always appreciates your support. And today's episode is brought to you by Mazda. Like our players, we sweat every detail because when you make every move count, pulling off the unexpected is only the beginning. Stay tuned for highlights in this week's Moving the Game Forward, Mazda Move and Be Moved. So I wrote my Sunday takeaway article after the loss. Let me just read you these first couple of paragraphs. All right, follow along. I'm going to kind of lead you down a path. I'm going to tell you a little story here, so to speak. The Trojans lost in the land of Lincoln after securing a fourth quarter lead with less than 2 minutes to play. However, USC's latest, and I'm using finger quotes, close loss with Lincoln Riley navigating was just another in a long line of close, but not really close losses. I think it's not only the right time, however, it's also fair to ask, when will USC win a close game against a quality opponent? This is year 4 of the journey with Lincoln Riley calling the plays. This is his team. This is his staff, his culture. Ultimately, he is responsible for how he wants his team to play and the results. Here's the thing. I've lost track of how many times Coach Riley told everyone in the media and the fans listening that this team is close, right? Or something else he'd say. This is a good team, but they need to get better, and they will because I've seen it. Some might remember that he said something really similar about Alex Grinch, too. And we know how that chapter ended. This is why Trojan fans are losing. So I should stop right there. So those three things that Coach Riley's starting to repeat himself with, this team is close. I've seen it before. These are all answers we've heard before from Coach Riley. So this is why Trojan fans are losing patience with Coach Riley and his state of mind. His answers, while trying to remain positive, are becoming less believable with each loss. So that's what I wrote on Sunday. Okay, I just wanted to kind of set the tone, preface everything. So let's now fast forward to Tuesday's practice. All right, let me repeat that last key part, those last two sentences that I wrote in my Sunday story. This is why Trojan fans are losing patience with Coach Riley and his state of mind. His answers, while trying to remain positive, are becoming less believable, and they're becoming less believable with each close loss. All right, so Tuesday's practice, Coach Riley talks with the media. This is the quote that caught not just my attention, but the fans picked up on it as well. Quote, "You take these two explosive plays off of it, and it's going to be really tough for them to beat us." Coach Riley was talking about, their defensive struggle and what led to USC losing. He's talking about those two explosive plays that went for 60-plus yards and touchdowns. Here's his full answer, right? Like I said, I call balls and strikes evenly. Here's the full context. Quote, "The biggest problem with the secondary was the two explosive plays, and that they throw a swing pass and a hitch route, and they turn into massive explosive plays. We didn't leverage the football properly on two plays, and they made us pay. And that's the biggest takeaway." He continued, You can't take a team like that and allow a hitch route and a swing pass to go the distance that they did. You take those two off of it, it's going to be really tough for them to beat us," end quote. So again, this was me. This is why Trojan fans are losing patience with Coach Riley and his state of mind. His answers, while trying to remain positive, are becoming less believable with each close loss. Well, here come the fans. They picked up on what Coach Riley said, that qualifier. So after that takeaway was put down over there on wearesc.com, what Coach Riley said, here was fan response number one. You can't be talking about 2 plays when you give up 500 yards and only force 1 punt. Fan response number 2, same nonsense every time. Fan response number 3, I thought the same thing when I heard him say that. Pissed me off. Annoys me to no end that he's constantly downplaying problems. He needs a consultant to work on how he messages to the fan base. Here's a 4th fan response. Also, they converted multiple big third downs on slants and outs to the slot on the nickel, and a 25-yard touchdown pass that was untouched. You might have saw that slant against Braylon Conley. So the hitch and the slant comment is dumb. They completed the entire route tree. That was from fan number 4. Chris Arledge, fan of the show, been on, Locked on USC before. He dropped in with this response. Not good. It wasn't too bad pass plays. And the D-line didn't just take a while to get started. They were getting pushed around the second half too. But don't expect football coaches to tell the media the truth. It's PR and nothing more. They're all like that. Look, this is the point I'm trying to make, is that what I wrote on Sunday wasn't just me venting. Okay? It's about accountability. Talked about it on yesterday's episode of Locked on USC. Not when you say certain things and they don't happen. Again, it's about accountability and not setting up the fans for disappointment. Right now, Coach Riley is starting to lose the fans with his answers. And when that happens, you get responses like this final one. This is the 5th fan response, and there was a bunch more after this, but it just became repetitive. So, quote, I truly like Lincoln Riley as our coach, but those were Clado type of comments. He is delusional if he really believes that, end quote. So the whole Clay Helton reference. Coach Helton used to say these things all the time. They were just very disingenuous types of answers. You could actually smell the BS that was coming out. So remember, I want to remind everybody, Clay Helton actually has a better record than Lincoln Riley after they played, they coached the same amount of games at their start of their respective careers at USC. So you're starting to hear Coach Riley sound like Clay Helton, and you're getting similar results. I just want to remind everybody, because I have to remind myself, Coach Riley is not a Coach Nick Saban. When it comes to calling out players, the situation, telling the truth about how good or bad the team is playing, he doesn't have that Nick Saban type of personality. At least we haven't seen it yet. Coach Riley, he likes to keep it positive. Again, the fans, though, they want less spin because it's more than a couple of plays. Coach Riley can't be cherry picking. Well, we didn't do this and we didn't do that. Don't forget, there was a couple of fumbles from Illinois as well. So, again, you're cherry picking. So, again, you can't just say it's a couple of plays. I mean, there have been the cracks in the dikes, guys trying to plug up holes in the dam. Those were showing up after each of the first 4 games. So, USC might have been 4-0, but you were starting to see some of these issues. When 2 plays from inferior teams happen, and those teams can't keep up with USC, at least offensively, that's one thing. So, yeah, if you give up a couple of plays to Georgia Southern or to Purdue or Michigan State, those teams can't keep up with USC. Illinois, quality team, you can't make those types of mistakes. So again, you can't use the same answer after the losses as well. You can't say, well, we got the win against Georgia Southern and Michigan State and Purdue, and so, we had a couple of plays here or there, but if those things don't happen, we look really good. So again, you can't use the same answer after wins and losses. It doesn't come across as being genuine. So that's how head coach Lincoln Riley answered the questions, and that's how his answer was interpreted by the fans. Like, whoa, wait a minute, hold on a second. You can't just say, well, if we take away these two plays, we probably win the game. There's a lot more gray area. So again, that was on Tuesday. Following Wednesday's practice, that's usually when we talk to defensive coordinator D'Anton Lynn. He was going to be facing the media for the first time since the Illini put up over 500 yards of offense. I'm going to tell you about that. That's coming up next. Excuse me. So the NFL season is here, and FanDuel's making sure you're ready for kickoff with a can't-miss offer. Right now, new customers, if you can bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you're going to get $300 in bonus bets that you can use across the entire FanDuel app. You're going to love using FanDuel because it fits however you like to bet. You want to do player prop bets, FanDuel will check that box. You want to build a same-game parlay, you can check off that box at FanDuel. Maybe you just want to jump into the action live as it's unfolding. Are you ready to play? Download the FanDuel app now by visiting FanDuel.com to get started. That's FanDuel.com to place your first $5 bet. This episode is brought to you by Square, your favorite neighborhood spot run on Square. There are certain businesses that truly make the neighborhood feel like home, whether it's the local sports bar that's packed on game days, that coffee shop that knows your exact order. Once you walk in, it'll be waiting for you 5 minutes later. Or maybe that corner deli that's been serving the community for decades. These are the places that bring people together. When neighborhood businesses thrive, the whole neighborhood thrives. So what does supporting a community look like? Well, spending money there doesn't just support the business, it supports the people behind it and the community around it. Here are just a few places that, fulfill the community, that neighborhood around USC that you need to check out. You like tacos? Check out Tacos LA. You like bagels? Check out Courage Bagels. If you're in the village, check out Dulce. You go to square.com and go to square.com, you got to go square.com/go/Locked On College to learn more. But before you do that, go support your favorite neighborhood spot. You'll be happy you did. Square, see you in the neighborhood. So Coach Lynn is not as wordy. He's not as verbose as Coach Riley or myself. He tends to be much more concise, to the point. I think I've said this in the past. You probably don't want to play poker against him because you're not going to get a good read. Well, so much for the best laid plans, right? I was so looking forward to hearing Coach Lynn explain what happened to his defense against Illinois. He was the one coach I think everybody wanted to hear from. And I was going to compare and contrast his answers to how Coach Riley answered the questions on Tuesday. Well, unfortunately, Coach Lynn wasn't available. He wasn't at practice. He's sick. Let me tell you, I could not have been more disappointed. About 10 minutes before practice was scheduled to end, USC's sports information director, Katie Ryan, she came outside and she said, hey, just want to make sure everyone's aware of this. Coach Lynn will not be available to the media this week because he's sick. It's not like he left practice early. He wasn't at practice at all. So, coincidence? Is this Coach Riley's way of protecting his defensive coordinator, saying, hey, take a sick day. We'll be okay with one. We will survive one day without you. I'm being sarcastic, right? Just for some of you who are thinking, what's he saying? No, I'm being sarcastic. But again, it does seem pretty convenient, right? Your worst defensive performance, and the first time you get the opportunity to talk with the media to answer some questions, I got a tummy ache. Can't be there. Again, I'm being sarcastic. I believe Coach Lynn is sick, okay? Nevertheless, again, you were really looking forward to talking with him. This was the one coach I needed to hear answer questions. And again, I wanted to compare his responses to Coach Riley, what he said on Tuesday. Obviously, that's not happening. So, without Coach Lynn to explain what happened, we did get a few players that talked to us. We had Bishop Fitzgerald, Christian Pierce, Devin Tompkins, linebacker Desmond Stevens. The players are not going to give the media anything to chew on. They are so, I don't want to say trained or overcoached what to say, but they are coached up what to say. Everything always has to be team first. We're looking forward. We forgot about what happened. Yada yada yada. Again, you don't get any real candid answers. Every now and then, Eric Gentry, he'll throw something out there, but for the most part, you get my point. So Desmond Stevens, he talked about how it wasn't so much what Illinois did on offense, specifically, their running game, as much as it was more about what USC didn't do. And then he started, getting a little technical, talking about fundamentals, not wasting movements, making sure you're taking the first step the right way, all that kind of stuff. So, again, not a whole lot to take away from Desmond other than, look, we had a bad game. We watched the film. We know what we need to improve on. That's what we're working on this week and next week as we get ready for Michigan. Bottom line is everyone's ready to turn the page. You had Bishop Fitzgerald, who said that USC's defense is pretty motivated. This is coming off their first season. He actually gave a mildly interesting quote. We might have needed that loss to get our heads back on. That's, if you understand what he's saying right there. Maybe we were reading our press clippings. Maybe we were overlooking Illinois. I don't think that's what he was saying. But that's something you can say after the fact. Like, hey, you know what? Maybe we needed to be humiliated. Maybe we needed to be humbled a little bit. Maybe this gets everyone to focus back. So, in fact, that's one of the things they said. They said, we're turning the page. We're just focused on a faceless, nameless Michigan team. And he wasn't calling Michigan faceless or nameless. Basically, they know who they're playing, but they're approaching it like it doesn't matter who they're playing. It could be Michigan. It could be Georgia Southern. You got to go 100% ready to play like it's the last play of the day, the last play of the game, the last game of the year. None of the players brought up any of the mysterious food poisoning issues, so nothing to talk about there. Another thing that Desmond Stevens said, he talked about trying to right the wrongs against Michigan. I think he used the word maniacs, not in the sense that the guys are acting like maniacs, other than they're attacking this week like a maniac. Extra work in the film room, weight room, whatever, on the practice field. That was his message there. So again, no Lynn, no defensive reporter D'Anton Lynn, and no, he wasn't interviewing for a job somewhere else. But again, it comes on the cusp of Lincoln Riley's, I don't know, say spin job from Tuesday's media scrum. It just seems really convenient, a little coincidental. And again, I hope Coach Lynn is feeling better in time for the game. I'm sure he will be. But we're not going to talk to him this week. We won't be able to talk to him again until after the Michigan game, and that'll be the Wednesday after. So a week from today, if you're watching this episode of Locked On USC first thing Thursday, you should be. You better be. By the way, if you are watching on YouTube and you haven't subscribed yet, you should. Click that red subscribe button. Smash that thumbs up. Both are going to help the show continue to grow. And I don't want you to miss an episode. So click that bell notification. Now you're covered. Locked On USC, your first listen every day. Part of the Locked On Network. Tomorrow, Thursday, again, depending on when you're watching the show, but on Thursdays, we do our media Zoom call with Coach Riley. So that will be the next thing that we talk about. And then we're done with the team until next week, because there's no media availability for any of the upcoming practices until next Tuesday, next Wednesday. All right. So we got one more segment to go. I took a suggestion from one of my everydayers, kind of end the show on a positive note, light note. We talk about USC's Trojans. They had a really good weekend in the NFL. I'm going to tell you who had some good weekends and why USC is the place to be if you want to become an NFL player. Mazda crafts cars for those who do more than simply move. Mazda delivers confidence with every ride, and that's because Mazda has more IIHS top safety picks than anyone else. And that stat is as current as August 2025. You can feel the Japanese craftsmanship in every detail, from the metallic accents to the available Napa leather upholstery. And here's another great feature and benefit. With all-wheel drive standard in every crossover SUV from Mazda, you can drive with confidence throughout almost any season. Like our players, we sweat every detail because when you make every move count, impossible becomes irrelevant. Mazda, move and be moved. College football is back. We are halfway through the season, folks, and I could not be more excited and starting to feel a little sad that we're halfway through the season. I mean, but you got the tailgates, the rivalries, the energy in the stands. There's nothing like it. So let's be real. You know, sometimes getting tickets can feel like more of a battle than the game you're watching itself, with the endless queues, the hidden fees, the price jumping at checkout. All that makes getting tickets a pain in the derriere. That's why you should use Game Time, the app that gives the advantage back to the fans. It's the easiest way to score last-minute tickets at the best prices. With no surprise fees, you see what you see is what you pay. I pulled up Game Time, and in just a couple of taps, I saw amazing deals. I'm literally talking about your favorite college football games for as low as $25. The app made it super simple. I could even see the exact view from my seat before buying the tickets. So take the guesswork out of buying college football tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, that's promo code LOCKEDONCOLLEGE, and you're going to get $20 off. Swipe, tap, ticket, go download Game Time today. So it's a bye week. USC doesn't play, but there's always a USC player playing every week in the NFL. Now, there's quite a few USC Trojans in the NFL. Now, that's what USC's known. They're a football factory. I think they still have the most overall NFL draft picks. I know they have the most number one overall draft picks by a long shot. So since it's a bye week, I thought, you know what? Perfect time to do a Trojan update. One of the show's everyday listeners, viewers, his name is Will. He asked me a few weeks back, say, Mark, do me a favor. Can you give us an update on some of the Trojans and how they did? Perfect week to start it, right here. Bye week, Wednesday. Not a lot to talk about. So check out these 7 former USC Trojans who are now NFL Trojans. Did you know that there were 7 Trojans who scored a touchdown over the weekend? 7. Let's start with Woody Marks. He plays for the Houston Texans. He was part of the scoring that gave the Texans a 26-0 shutout over Tennessee. Amon-Ra St. Brown, I'm telling you, if you use Prize Picks, Amon-Ra St. Brown should be in your lineup every week. Well, he helped Detroit to a win over Cleveland with a touchdown. Remember Juju Smith-Schuster, one of the great wide receivers for the USC? Well, he scored a touchdown in Kansas City's win over Baltimore. We're not done. Like I said, there were 7. How about Caleb Williams? Well, he got a touchdown. He got his in a win over Pete Carroll's Las Vegas Raiders. So a little friendly fire there. Somebody had to win, and Caleb Williams got another touchdown. Michael Pittman, one of the most unheralded, greatest wide receivers to ever play for USC. He got a touchdown. Unfortunately, it happened in a loss against the Rams. Sam Darnold got his in Seattle's win over the Arizona Cardinals. And then finally, another wide receiver playing in the NFL from USC, This is why USC is still wide receiver U. Drake London. He got his in Atlanta's win over the Redskins. So there's your Trojan update, Will. Hopefully everybody else enjoyed that. And look, there's so many other players in the NFL that I could have gone over, but again, I figured, that's a pretty cool stat. 7 Trojans scored a touchdown in one weekend in the NFL. Let's give him some flowers. Let's point him out. Woody Marks, rookie season. He looks like he's going to be around for a while. He doesn't just score touchdowns. He also is a great pass blocker. So, yeah, Houston loves USC players. You got Solomon Byrd. You got Kalen Bullock. You got Jalen Smith. You got Woody Marks. Might as well just call them the Houston Trojans. I'll be back with another episode tomorrow. That's what we do around here 5 times a week. Guess who's joining us? Well, actually, I got 2 more shows coming up this week. On the next episode, I'm going to have Kendall Hollowell from Sports Illustrated. He was on the show recently. He's coming back. We're going to talk more about USC, get his impressions on what he saw against Illinois and what to anticipate against Michigan. And then I'll also have another episode, give you a bonus episode, me and MVP 3, Marvin Powell III. We're going to talk about the Trojans, take a week to reflect, and what to look forward to with Michigan. So until then, everyone, you know what to do.